Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. Now, in this video, I interview the very well-respected magician Marc Spellman, otherwise known as Magician X. Now, those of you who are Got Talent fans, Marc Spellman auditioned and got the golden buzzer in 2018, and then he came back again the year later in 2019 in disguise, and then came runner-up. He performed at that point in time as Magician X, the masked magician. And I've got him on today to talk about all the stuff to do with Britain's Got Talent and the gossip, behind the scenes experiences. And we share our advice to anyone going on the show. And as well as that, it's especially interesting to any magicians out there because we discuss all things magic related and what we believe makes magic powerful. But before we go into the interview, it would mean the world to me if you could click the like button just below and also make sure you're subscribed, and then you'll see all the upcoming interviews that I've got coming very, very soon. Enjoy the video. Now, and we're going to welcome him to the show. Here he is, Mr. Marc Spellman. Good evening, sir.
Good to see you, mate. Lovely to join you. Thank you for asking me to do this. It's an absolute honour, mate. Really, really good to sort of connect publicly. I mean, obviously we did BGT Christmas special and we've crossed paths a couple of times. I remember when you won Britain's Got Talent in 2016, right? I'm getting that right, yeah?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember we were at the there was a premiere of Now You See Me Now You See Me Now You Don't Too.
That's right, I remember.
You were walking along, and I was with a friend of mine, Colin, who is one of my best friends in magic and really fundamental to the whole X experience. He pretended to be my manager throughout the whole thing and just did all the talking. Like, people have asked so many times, like, how did people not know it was you? And it was because I had literally my right-hand man by the side of me doing all the talking, all the arranging of everything, drove me to and from the studio. But me and Colin were walking along and I went, hey, that's Richard Jones. He's just won Britain's Got Talent. Because Colin doesn't really watch Britain's Got Talent. I went, he's the magician that just won Britain's Got Talent. And we crossed paths. It was like an escalator, I think we were going on. And you were going one way and I went the other. And I looked at you and I went, congratulations. And then you just went, hey, thanks. And that was the first time we actually physically met. So, yeah, no, credit to you, mate. And well done. You are the only magician to ever win Britain's Got Talent. And deservedly so, mate.
Thank you very much. That's very, very kind. Well, here's the thing. Like, when I only started doing these Friday night lives, literally only about 2 weeks ago. So we've had so far. I had Maddox Dixon on, another magician, and last week we had. Say again, sorry.
I said Maddox Dixon, too good looking for his own good. That boy.
Yeah. I always tell him he looks like the Jon Snow from Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yeah. I can see that.
I think he gets that a lot.
Yeah. He's a good looking boy.
And last week we had Steve Royal on, who was hilarious. Obviously, Brilliant. He was on in 2020, wasn't he? Yeah, he was
That's
fantastic.
Right. I had him and John Courtney. Those two were I was thinking either one of them is going to take this. But strangely, before that, Serene, the young girl who she can't see, she's blind. I really thought that she was going to be in the final. I really thought she was going to be in the final because I thought it was phenomenal. But when it became the final, it was either for me it was Royal or Courtney were gonna win.
It was a tough year. You know what? It was a shame that they didn't get to perform. Obviously, it was the only time that's ever been performed without an audience. The finals, which obviously adds a lot of pressure, especially to a comedian, because he was performing obviously to screens and to get a reaction. That's what you bounce off. So, but he didn't let it affect him at all. He was just hilarious, and it was just really, really cool. So basically, every week I ask my followers who I should get up, and I should just mention that the majority of people that every week that I've asked, every time the number one name that comes up is yourself, Marc. So I just want to let you know that there is a lot of people very excited to see you tonight. And also, I wasn't sure if it was going to be you or X that was going to turn up tonight, and it looks like both of you are here.
Where is he? There he is over there. He's just hanging around over there.
That is
So that
really cool.
just so you know, that mask is a really weird one. So when I did all of Britain's Got Talent, all of the audition, the semi-final, and the final, when I took the mask off in the final, what you don't see on the camera is I took the mask off because they're finishing showing that video. I took the mask off and I dropped the mask on the floor. So it's just behind me. And when I finished the interview with Ant and Dec and everything, by the time I got back to the dressing room, they brought all of my props back, as they do. But the mask had a massive crack down the side of it. And I don't know when I dropped it on the floor or whatever, but it was a moment, you know. I just had to take it off and it was like, wah, you know. And so the mask had a massive crack on it. So I said back then I would retire that mask. They take probably about 6 to 7 hours to make physically, but then I have to let them dry and I do certain things to them. So probably about a day and a half to make one mask. So I'm not superstitious at all. I'm really not superstitious. But in the show, I became really superstitious about this mask. It was like I had to wear the same mask the whole way through. So much so that when I did America's Got Talent, the champions, when was that? The end of it was shown at the very beginning of 2020, January, but it was actually filmed in October time, 2019. I unretired the mask, fixed the crack and everything on it, and I thought I just have to wear the original mask. I can't not wear it. But now it is officially retired, and that is that side. That's the original mask, and it is now retired on the wall. So now I've made about 3 new masks, and Ant actually has one of them now from the Christmas special.
Okay.
So yeah.
Is the realistic face behind you? Is that the mask from?
That would
the Christmas special.
Let me just. Yeah, that's So that is Chris. Oh god, I'm pointing in the wrong direction. So weird.
This is a nightmare, isn't it? I do the same.
Right, so that is Christian Nardi. And you probably get a bit of a reference to the name there, Nardi. Peter Nardi's a good friend of mine. So the name that we came up with, Christian, is everyone said, who is Christian Nardi? So just to pull the veil on that one, Christian, Colin, he's been absolutely fundamental in everything I've done as X, every performance I've done since, and I've performed more as X than I have as myself. I would say it's about 60-40. So 40% of the time I perform as Marc Spellman, and 60% I'm performing as X. Obviously, a lot more before the coronavirus and the lockdowns and all of the ways that it's restricted our performances. But so Colin's first name, his real first name is Christian. And then a really good friend, and you know Peter Nardi from Alakazam Magic. Peter Nardi is one of my best friends. So I just thought, right, okay, so this character that Amanda's going to call is going to be called Christian Nardi. So that's where the name came from. But that is Christian Nardi over there.
You know what? Now that we're discussing this, I'm just suddenly realising how important it is that we did discuss that, because I've just suddenly realised anyone who's tuning in who didn't see the Christmas special probably thinks you could be a crazy person with a real body behind the wall. It's so realistic. It's a little bit terrifying.
Let's clarify that is, and also as well, obviously it's a mask, so it's got hollow eye. There's nothing behind it. So I went on Amazon and I actually bought some eyes to put in it. So if you go up close to it, it has got eyes inside the head as well. So it looks even more freaky now. So when Isabella, my daughter, comes into my little studio space, she kind of goes,
yeah, no doubt. That's a terrifying room for Isabella. How old is Isabella now?
She's just turned 5, so she's doing loads of homeschooling. I'm sort of part-time magician, full-time teacher at the moment, but I love it. I'm really enjoying homeschooling her. She's my best friend, so it's all good.
So I something else that we should tell everyone is when me and Marc first had a chat on Zoom, which would have been December time. No, actually, it would have been way before that, when we were filming for the Britain's Got Talent Christmas special.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't realise. Yeah, a lot of people don't realise, but originally, the filming for the Christmas special was way back at the beginning of October, and then it was yeah, it was all kind of like, forget that, because it was just getting too risky because of COVID and all the regulations and stuff. So everything was paused, and then we resumed filming. What was it? The beginning of December, wasn't it? We started doing that.
Yeah, it was a very last minute turnaround. I mean, we didn't think we were ever going to be able to do it, did we? It was kind of a hit and miss thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But I remember having some conversations with you on Zoom, and I remember the background. You were just starting. Now, I know a lot of people watching have all been turned to DIY over the lockdown period, including me. And I assume you did it all yourself. Now, you've been in yourself. So
I've actually, you know what? I've got a YouTube channel that I don't do anything. I'm terrible. My wife is infuriated with me because I've got a decent following on Instagram as myself. I've got a decent following as X, and I just don't do enough with it. So my whole my New Year's resolution is just to become a lot more active with social media and YouTube. So if I am going to really up my game on YouTube, so I've actually recorded exactly how I made the wall behind me.
Oh, nice.
So like every single process and element to it. So it looks like it's sort of brickwork with frames and stuff. So all the frames are made by me, and I show you how I paint them and age them and that kind of thing. All the brickwork is actually individual pieces of MDF that I kind of rough up and make look like brick.
I remember you showing me,
That's it. I think when you saw it, it wasn't even painted. I think it was just still plain MDF. Now it's like a white background, and I've got all these different individual inserts. So you've got X there, you've got Christian there, which is, and then just out of sight, you've got Darth Vader's just up there as well. So yeah, it's just, I'm obsessed with masks. I always have been. And that's why X was such a natural thing for me, just to sort of be X, just to put the mask on and perform behind the mask was, I loved it. I enjoyed it more performing as X than I did as myself. I could be this complete different entity. And even now, it's really weird because people, when I talk about X, I talk about X in the third person. So, if I'm getting a booking or something, so my agent will phone me up and go, they wanted to know, could X do this? And I go, oh no, X, yeah, he doesn't really like doing that kind of, I can ask, but I don't think he'd do it. And my agent, Sam, sort of says to me like, really? And I go, yeah. I said, but when I perform, when I put the mask on, honestly, it is the weirdest thing. It's like a transition. Like, when you go to a fancy dress party, if I said to you, like, Richard, like, act like a zombie, right? You kind of go, oh, really? It's a bit embarrassing. But now imagine it's Halloween and you've got all the makeup on. You're all over it. So you're straight into the... So for me, putting the mask on as X and all the things that I said as X, I write all of those things. So all of the things about, like, how we should be connected. We're all the same. It doesn't matter where we're from, who we are, whether we're rich, famous, black, white, whatever. We're all the same, we are all the same, and we are all equal, in an unequal world, we are all the same. So that's just part of what I believe and who I am. So it was really nice because in that sort of X way, I could kind of elaborate on that a little bit more and speak a lot more from the heart, I feel. So I didn't, it was never about me as X. It was always about you guys and everyone else. So that was really empowering, that X became almost this faceless symbol and still is. When I go out and perform, it's like my stage show that no one's seen. Obviously, I've done it all at corporates and stuff. So after the X final, we were in Dubai for a week, China. We were in China before the whole thing broke out. And then Japan, Indonesia. I performed in Indonesia for a wedding. They wanted X at a wedding, which sounds really bizarre, but it was a real centerpiece for this wedding. It was massive. It was 1,500 people, and me just walking through the audience and all these lights coming on, like a fight. I don't know if you're into boxing, but when they enter the ring and all the lights go up and stuff, and it was like X walking through. But it's really weird because even when Ant was X, on the show, I said to Ant when we were sort of like kind of going through, I said to him, look, you know, X kind of moves in this way and he's a bit more kind of not robotic, but not quite normal. And Ant turned around and I just said, have fun with it. And he was like, oh my God, don't worry about that. I'm going to have so much fun being X. And he loved it. He was all over being
awesome.
X. So yeah, it was good fun.
I'm keeping an eye on the questions. So those of you, by the way, who are asking questions, don't worry. I am going to go back through them and ask some of them. So don't worry about that. But I was just one question that connects to right now. That I think, who was it that asked? It was Lucy and Jackson asked. Were you more nervous going on stage for the first time on Britain's Got Talent as Marc Spellman, or when you came back as X? What was more terrifying?
Okay,
or not
so
terrifying, or exciting?
Yeah, no, yeah, I get you. No, totally, I get that. Hi, Lucy and Jackson. So I would say that when I went out as me back in 2018, for me, I was representing myself and Tessa and Isabella. And for me, that whole performance, I promise, like when I say this, I mean this with all sincerity. I really did not know how that audition was going to go. I knew that I could deliver. I knew that I could perform it, like in terms of technical stuff, because I've just done magic for so long. But I didn't know how it'd be received. I certainly didn't expect the golden buzzer, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But yeah, no, I think I said to Tessa that on that day, I said, look, worst case scenario, I can tell Isabella that Daddy did a dedication for her at the London Palladium, and if it never gets shown, then that's it. And that was my mindset. I had no idea. Like, is this even going to make it onto the TV? And then once you get the golden buzzer, then that's when the producers go, no, this is definitely on Marc. And I'm like, oh, right, okay, so it is. So I was really naive to it. I was very naive to, you know, like, because I know that, you know, you can go on the show and you can do reasonably well. And you know magicians, I know magicians that have been on there and actually had really good auditions, but it's the brutality of a television program where you might have 250 people that have done fantastic performances, and of that you might have 30 magicians that did great jobs, but they've only got space for 10, and that's it. Otherwise it's just the show would go on for 6 months. They just can't do it. So I think I was more nervous going on as me because it was much more personal. When I went on as X, I remember saying to Colin, I said, look, if this goes horribly wrong, because I was doing like the whole touch thing with Ant and Dec, and I thought, if any of this doesn't work or it goes horribly wrong, we just forget this happened. And the mask never come off. No one knew. And I could just disappear and go, not me. Don't know who that was.
Say, it was David Blaine in the mask. Yeah.
Yeah, I just go, I don't know. I think it was Dynamo or Darren. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Did you, when you first started X, was the first performance that you first put on X4, was that BGT, or had you already done performances before that?
No. So I created X in 2011. So I've been in magic for a really, really long time, and I've always pitched different TV shows to production companies. Oh, this is an idea. Here's an idea. What about this? What about that? And I've always been nearly. I said to Tessa, I'm going to be the nearly man. Even like BGT, I didn't win. I came second, so I'm the nearly man, right? But with the TV stuff, I wrote this idea. I used to be, like, years ago, I used to do graffiti, not illegal graffiti. I used to do graffiti.
Yeah.
So I used to do all the murals. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so hip hop and all that kind of stuff was part of my upbringing. And I was a really good body popper, so I could do the robot and stuff like that. And if you follow me on TikTok, you will see some of this stuff soon. It's all
We'll
coming.
definitely check that out. Yeah,
it really is. I promise you, and you'll be surprised. But I was always into graffiti, and I loved graffiti. I loved these big murals, but really nice murals, not the nonsense that's written on a bus window or something, not vandalism, but really nice pieces of art. And I really liked Banksy, and I am a fan of Banksy. I love his work. I love this mystery behind him. So in 2011, I wrote a television program concept called Prank. And the idea was that this masked magician, who no one knew who it was, would go around and do magic in different disguises, be it as a taxi cab driver or a security guard or whatever. and it would be almost like meaningful messages behind the magic, sort of symbolic stuff, maybe slightly political or sort of referencing sort of environmental issues or whatever, but meaningful magic. And that was the role of Prank. And then about a year later, Ben Hanlon, a good friend of mine, brilliant magician, had his TV show come out on ITV called, oh God, was
Tricked.
it Trick? Tricked.
Yeah,
It was
Tricked, yeah.
Tricked. And obviously, it was a lot more light-hearted. It was like Trigger Happy TV does magic, but it kind of negated Prank. It just made it. It wasn't such an original idea, so it just got put on the back burner. But when I was approaching the production companies, because I've got a background in art and graphic design, so I design everything, my websites and videos and all the things that are edited together. I do a lot of that stuff myself. So, so I had this image of Prank, and Prank was like in a hoodie, much like I'm wearing now, with a white mask on, arms crossed, and around him on this sort of front A4 page of this pitch document was all the different characters that he would play. So when I came out of Britain's Got Talent in 2018, I came out in the semi-finals, and I was a favourite. I mean, I was really high up on William Hill. I was one of the favourites to potentially win the show. And I went out in the semi-finals, and rightfully so. I always say this, I've said this in other interviews. That night, Robert White, if you haven't seen it, YouTube it. Robert White was absolutely hilarious and ripped
the comedian.
Comedian, yeah. So he's
hilarious.
He's autistic, but he's a teacher. But his sense of humor is just so cutting, and everyone just thought he was a funny comedian on a keyboard, and that was it. So that night, it was me and Griff who were the golden buzzers. Griff's from Wales; he's the opera singer. So it was like the night of the golden buzzers, like Griff versus Spellman kind of thing. And then along comes Robert White and smashed it, absolutely smashed it. And that night, and I don't say this, I mean this, that night Robert White deserved to win that semi-final. And Griff, his performance, it was a track from, it was a song from Gladiator, beautiful piece of music, was just better than my semi-final. So that was right for me to go out there. I was devastated. But when I was sitting at home kind of thinking, oh God, again, the Nearly Man, I remember just sort of thinking to myself, is that my, there's a famous line from Andy Warhol, and he says, everyone will have their 15 minutes of fame. And I thought, was that my time? Was that it? That golden buzzer, will that be it? And if it is, God, what an amazing moment. But then I remember sitting there thinking, I never got to finish the story. And it was always about hope and never giving up. And I thought, and I can't give up. This is what the story's about. And then I went through my documents. And I remember I was having to clean out of a drawer, pulled out this A4 image, and it was Prank in crossed arms, white mask from sort of 7 or 8 years ago. And I just went, oh my God. And that was when I had this sort of eureka moment. And I thought, hang on a minute. Because I don't know about you, but one of the things that I got, like whenever you do something like Britain's Got Talent, there is an element of criticism that you get. You get the amazing comments and the love, and that is incredible. But obviously, there's always a yin and a yang, and you get that negative side, right? So for me, people were saying, oh, he got through because his wife had cancer, or he only got through because his daughter was IVF baby and it was a sob story. So you kind of get that, and I kind of expected it, and you kind of listen to it and kind of think, you don't really get the point that I was trying to make. And the whole point behind my audition, when I got the golden buzzer, was that real magic exists, but it's not in what we do. It's we do theatrical magic. We do magic that is that, wow, that's incredible. But real magic exists in life. So that's your family, your friends, your parents, your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, whatever, but in those moments and in experiences, the things that we've experienced, and just kind of just looking out into the world and just realizing, stop looking for the end of the rainbow, and all that. It's like sometimes magic is right there. And for me, Isabella is real magic. Like even now, I just homeschool Isabella at the moment. And I genuinely, I hear her voice when she's playing with her toys and stuff. And I go, I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. Like that's real magic to me, and that was the point of the audition.
But
So
I
what?
think I know you said you got a lot of criticism, but I just want to say that the number one thing that I tell magicians is it shouldn't ever really be just about the magic. It should be about connecting with as many people as possible in a meaningful way. And that's what I love about all the stuff that you've done. Even the fact that you did it as X, where you can't see any expressions, you still managed to get the power that connected
Well,
to
that's
every
you
single
know what
one watching.
that's a really interesting point, and I just want to kind of tip my hat to your performance on the Christmas special as well. When you think about it, like there were some lovely moments of magic, but fundamentally, what your performance is a massive thank you to
Mm.
the absolute heroes, and the unsung heroes, the frontline workers, the people that are still going out doing the deliveries and things like that, while
Yeah,
we all took
yeah.
ourselves away safely at home. So again, you're using magic, but you're not using it. The wow factor is not really, it's part of it. That's the eye candy and the nice bits. But ultimately, the real thing is a real salute, which you did to the frontline workers, the NHS, the police, the army services, and all that. And my goodness, if I always think to myself, like when I think of music and I think of film and I think of theatre, you can tell so many stories with a film. You can tell a
Mm.
story in 3 minutes with a piece of music. You can tell a story with, even with comedy, it becomes so relative and you can kind of take people on a journey, even with a comedy set. And the one thing that I feel sometimes lays a little bit in dormant, it kind of relies on the wow, is magic. And I think, it's for the creativity of the magician to think, we do some pretty incredible things, some things that people kind of go, I don't know how you do it, it's amazing. But we should, it's a privilege to be able to use magic and practice it and study it. It's an honor. It's such a fun thing to do. And therefore, for me, I think to myself, if I can move someone or have someone come out of a theatre or after seeing me at a corporate event or something like that, come out and go, God, that was really quite touching as well. It moved me. Then
Mm.
for me, I think to myself, then that's what we should be doing, right? Because
Mm.
that's what we do with magic. Like, let's keep up with the amazing songs and things like that. I was really lucky enough. I performed for Eric Clapton, probably about sort of, I think it was 2017 was the last time I performed for him twice. And in 2017, I performed for Eric Clapton. And I remember sort of thinking he has a song called Tears in Heaven. And that song is all about his child. He lost his child. It was a tragic accident in New York where his little child, toddler, fell out of a window and passed away. And he wrote that song, Tears in Heaven. And it is, if you haven't heard it, just YouTube Tears in Heaven, Eric Clapton. It will have you in tears. And I
Mm.
think to myself, here's a father singing to his child. And I think that magic, there's no rules with art, and I think magic is a massive art form. And sometimes I think it loses. So we all think of the arts as music and theatre and film, but I think magic is right up there. It's for us
Mm.
as magicians to make sure that we impact in that way. I think it's really important.
Well, it's interesting the difference in performances. I think it's very easy as a magician to go down the route where we do something impressive and it becomes about us. And I think that's a bit of a trap. I mean, there's definitely a place for that where a magician, for people to look up to someone and think, wow, this person's amazing. But I personally always feel like that's the weaker path, a weaker impact that you'll have doing tricks to essentially show off. I think it's much better to like something that I've noticed you doing a lot of your shows and people I admire is very often the magic isn't something that people think, wow, that magician's amazing. It's a magician who makes people feel like they've done something amazing and they were part of whatever that amazing thing is that's just happened in front of them. That is part of the magic, and not just someone, the almighty magician, look what I can do, you can't do this kind of thing. And I think that is a trap that I'm sure we've all fallen down at some point, and we've kind of done stuff and it makes us feel powerful and feel like, oh wow, look at this. I'm cool.
Of course. And I think obviously you've done your theatre show, your tour, and and I know that when you're doing an hour and a half, essentially two sort of 45-minute halves, so an hour and a half of magic, it would be really difficult to have a story for every single piece that you're doing.
Of course,
So some of it is just fun. Here's a quirky bit of magic. I actually was really inspired by a non-magician, actually, a controversial character at times, but Uri Geller. Uri Geller came to prominence really in the sort of late 70s. Now, I was born in 1971, so I'm getting on a bit. But he was really prominent. And one of the things that Geller said, and obviously he's a psychic, or whatever, if there is such a thing, I beg to differ, but anyway.
He's got a great car, which you should all check out on Google. A car full of bent spoons. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Exactly. But with that, Geller always used to say that, he always used to try to empower people that he was showcasing his psychic abilities with. And I always thought that that's such a nice thing to do. And that's what I try and do. I did an interview with Lorraine, as you have done. She's a mate. I love Lorraine to bits on the morning TV show. For those of you that are not in England, and I remember I said to Lorraine, I said, if I do something amazing, as amazing it might be, you expect it because I'm the magician, right? So it's like, yeah, of course you can do something amazing. However, if I flip that and I am merely the kind of conductor and you do something that is truly amazing, that everyone else is going, hang on a second, how did that work? And you are going, he couldn't have influenced me. It was me, I guess. That's so much more empowering. And that's where I try to put most of my magic on other people. So even if I am doing a magic trick that is a bit showcasey, a bit like check it out, I try and relate it in some way to life or whatever. I try and give it a little bit of context.
Well, that makes it more powerful. No doubt Lorraine will remember that far more than a trick where you do something impressive yourself. It becomes far more meaningful and memorable. But that's something that you've always done in all of the TV spots that I've seen you do. It's stuff that you would always remember.
Can I just to sort of jump in there? You were on was it This Morning or GMTV or something? And one of the, excuse my brain, it's a Friday night. It's been a long week of homeschooling, but someone was thinking of a name of someone, and then you had a piece of card and you did the light a bit, and all the letters vanished, and that name was there. Do you remember? Yeah.
I can't remember what that was on. Yeah.
So, but my point is that was as clever as that was as what you were doing. This reveal of this name that this person's thinking of, in many ways, it almost is a bit out of you. It's more their relationship with the name that's been revealed that is so elevated and elevates that piece of magic much more than if it had been something that was non-personal. So I think whenever you can do that, it sort of elevates the magic. If ever you can put part of your audience in the magic, it's always going to be stronger, I think, and more relatable.
Absolutely. I'm gonna quickly flick through because I want to make sure that everyone watching is involved. So I'm going to quickly flick through and get up some questions. There is some great questions in it.
And I'll answer them as quickly as I can because I know I go off on tangents.
So if hold on, I'm going to add this to broadcast. So I'll add some of them as we go. So Hannah says, question for both of us. Which BGT performance are you most proud of? Interesting question. Marc, you go first on that one.
I would say, I loved performing as X. It was amazing, and I loved all of it. Especially the mask coming off at the end was overwhelming. I mean, you can see how overwhelmed I was on the video. I would have to say that Golden Buzzer performance, though, because it was about Isabella and Tessa and their strength, that for me would be the one that would that's always right in there.
Yeah. That, for me, I would say the most incredible one for me was when I did Champions. Mainly because it was in Wembley Arena, which was amazing just in itself. But I remember feeling the love from the crowd, which I know you felt in the same way when you did that first performance, because it was personal to yourself. But the reaction from the audience was just overwhelming. I got the same kind of vibe from the love from the room when I did Champions, and it was such a nice moment when I walked out where you just felt the love in the room when I walked out. And I think a lot of that isn't necessarily because of the magic that I do. I think a lot of that is because a lot of people have a lot of respect for the troops, which is amazing. And I have a lot of followers who support me because they appreciate what the troops do. And I don't take credit for anything I do army-wise, but I suppose people see me sometimes as a representative in some sort of sense. But the love in that room was incredible, and I got really emotional. And I'm not sure how many of you saw it, but
I did. I saw it.
I nearly couldn't start the performance. I was so overwhelmed, and obviously to be back as well on Britain's Got Talent a few years afterwards, and seeing the judges, seeing the reaction from the audience. And what it doesn't show in that video is I was actually stood there, couldn't start the show for about 5 minutes. They edited it down to make it look like about 20-30 seconds of me like welling up, but in reality I couldn't start for about 5 minutes. And the lady, bless her, who cues the music, was amazing, and every 10 seconds she was re-looping it, waiting for me to start. And I had no idea if I was going to be able to do it, but obviously that was a combination of the emotion from the audience and the love I got, but also the fact that obviously I was telling a story and in a sense updating everyone who supported me on Britain's Got Talent life, everything I've done on there. I was kind of updating them on Fergus, because Fergus had died a few months before, just before he turned 100, and I wanted it to be a dedication and like a thank you to Fergus for how he helped me on the show previously. And what was nice is we had Fergus's son and his granddaughter in the audience as well, and they were getting really emotional as well, because obviously Fergus's face was up on the screen and it showed us in the final of Britain's Got Talent. And that's the only time I nearly couldn't speak and nearly just had to stop and not perform because it was just so much. And I usually don't get that emotional, but that was really tough.
No, I think Fergus would have been incredibly proud, mate. I really do.
Oh, I appreciate that. It was lovely having his family there. Yeah, and in Wembley Arena was lovely. But that brings me on. I should have asked you already, actually, because you did Champions in America.
Yes.
And you did incredibly well. And those of you who are watching, if you haven't seen it, I know a lot of you are Magic fans, you did a big surprise reveal where you had the winner of AGT, Shim Lim, on as well.
Yes.
In the X mask.
Yeah, so that was really interesting. So originally, I said to the production when we were talking about doing the Champions, they said to me, like, I told them what the concept of the routine was going to be. And they were like, brilliant, okay. And I said, look, most important thing is we need someone who's about 5'8", similar build to me, and we should be fine. So if you can, whoever you want, you guys decide. So they started pitching all of these celebs. I mean, like, and I'm talking like film stars and stuff like that. And one of them was the Fonz, was Henry Winkler. Was going to be, do you remember, I don't know, Richard, do you remember Happy Days and the Fonz? I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, no, it's before my time, sorry.
Look at you youngsters. Well, okay, Happy Days, the Fonz, right? So it was massive. So, but he was only, I said he's 5'6", and I think he's about 65. And I was going, I just don't know that's going to work. So then we went back to the drawing board, and they went, what about Shin Lim? And I went, well, Shin Lim, how tall is Shin Lim? They went 5'6". And I went, okay, so that's 2 inches shorter than me. And I went, and Shin Lim, there's nothing of him. I mean, he's properly slim. And I went, and then they said, we can pad him out and we can put him in heels. So I was like, will Shin do that? So they got in contact with Shin, and Shin was like, I get to be X. I'm all over that. So awesome. Literally, they padded him out and stuff, and he had lifts in the shoes to raise him up a little bit. He still looks slimmer than me, but anyway, so yeah. So that was it was good fun to do. Really good fun.
Was that the same year? Because Shin did Champions as well, but that wasn't the same year, was it? It was Champions 2 years in a row. Was that right?
No. So what had happened is he had won AGT the previous year, and then they invented the Champions and then did the American version of the Champions, which he then won that. And then a year later, they did the Champions that they asked me to come over to perform on.
Yeah.
And then that's when Shin Lim. So I think Shin Lim now has got this record that is never going to be broken. That is, he won AGT, he won AGT Champions, and then came back and did another performance with X. So yeah, it was really good fun. Really good fun.
Awesome. I'm just flicking through. There's a lot of great questions here. Let's Okay, there's one. Let's bring one here. So, Mark's favorite hip hop group from the 90s.
My favorite hip hop group. That's a really good question. I would have to say. See, I don't know if you lot know this. I was a massive fan of a group called Silver Bullet. Um, they were they're not massively popular. They did 2 tracks that were massive on the scene. One was called "Bring Forth the Guillotine." So write this down, and then you can YouTube this after. "Bring Forth the Guillotine" and "20 Seconds to Comply" by Silver Bullet, and they were I used to have that on repeat all the time, and used to break dance and body pop to that all the time. So
awesome.
Silver
Well,
Bullet.
we're looking forward to seeing your breakdancing on.
I don't know if I can break.
TikTok.
I can still body pop, and I can still do the robot. I don't know about my backspinning days. Might be a bit beyond.
Awesome. Right, here we go. I've got another question for you. Let's add this. Truly committed. Here's certainly Chung-Ling Soo. Oh, so this person must be a magician. So he's referenced Chung-Ling Soo, who's got a very interesting life story. He says, "Is Geller the ultimate example of truly committing to your character?" That's a good question. I mean, you will never. I mean, I assume. I mean, Marc, you've met him, haven't you? Uri Geller? I've never met him myself.
No, never met Uri Geller.
Oh, you've never met.
No. And that's a really interesting question, because it is one of those things whereby, for those of you that don't know, Uri Geller is a world famous psychic. So he says that he has psychic ability and that kind of thing. And there are lots of people that believe that he has psychic ability. He's certainly a very charismatic person and incredible in many ways. And then there's another group of people that think that he is a magician pretending to be a psychic. And so that's a really interesting question, and a question that I've always wondered, like, does he go home and then kind of go, I don't know, take the mask off, so to speak, and all that? I don't know. Maybe it is, or maybe now maybe he has a belief that he really is psychic. I mean, the only person that could answer that question really is Uri Geller, really.
It's interesting, the reference to Chung-Ling Soo. I mean, I'm no expert in magic history, but briefly, what I believe the story behind Chung-Ling Soo is we're talking a long, long time ago. There was what I believe was a Chinese performer over in America. Is that right, Marc? And
yeah, so I can really.
You're probably far better at telling the story than me. Actually,
I mean, a tiny, maybe a fraction more. Basically, I can't. It's terrible. I can't even remember his real name. I think it was William or something like that. I'm really apologise to the magic historians, but he was a magician, an American magician that had a so-so career. It was okay, but then you had a lot of Far Eastern magicians that would come over, and there was this mystical element of the Far East, China and that kind of thing, and these sort of Oriental magicians that would do all these amazing performances. So he took on the guise and created a character called Chung-Ling Soo, and he would perform as Chung-Ling Soo, but he would also, I mean, he went even as far, I mean, very similar in a way. God, maybe this is where the model of X has come from. He would have an interpreter with him, so that whenever he would perform at a theatre, there would be an interpreter that would interpret, even though he was fully, he could speak English because he was American. And he had an interpreter with him at all times. And it was only he tragically died. I think he did the bullet catch and tragically died. And it was only after that his real identity came out, that he was an American magician, posing as the famous Chung-Ling Soo. And at the time, Chung-Ling Soo was, massively famous.
I don't know how true it is, but someone did tell me that when the moment he got shot on stage, he said something in English. I think he said something like, something's gone wrong, or he referenced something, and it was the first time the audience had ever heard him speak anything other than so-called Chinese, and I think that kind of highlighted that it was an act. But it was amazing. If anyone looks him up online, his whole head was shaved apart from a ponytail at the back, and his eyebrows were shaped, and from looking at it, you would just at the time, that is how they pictured mystical people from China. That's how they pictured that they would look. And he, that interpreter reference that you mentioned, I'm told that even when he was seen out and about when he wasn't performing, he would always have someone interpreting for him, which is, I mean, what dedication to the art. That's incredible, really.
Absolutely. One of the best films to watch that I truly love. I love The Prestige with Hugh Jackman and, oh my God, Christian Bale. And I love that film because, one, it's a great film, but two, I love the importance and the value that they put on the secrets. It's like these books of secrets that, you just can never learn. And I think in some ways, as time's gone on, especially with the advent of the invention of the internet and that kind of thing, I think the secrets of magic are a little bit, they're quite accessible now with things like YouTube and stuff like that. And I grew up learning magic by going to one or two magic shops that existed in London and learning the secrets. You'd have to almost get a rite of passage. You'd almost have to kind of prove your devotion to the art of magic, and then they'd go, well, look, here's a really good book, you can buy this. And it was like that. And I love that value on the secrets,
Well, I think it's interesting because I know there's a lot of magicians, like people starting out in magic on TikTok and Instagram and doing really cool stuff magic wise. But it's interesting that you can, to a certain extent, learn magic on YouTube, like how certain tricks are done. But really, if you perform in the bare bones of what you learn on YouTube, it's not necessarily very powerful, and it doesn't make you a magician. I think what makes someone a magician is, they understand the mechanics of how sleight of hand works and whatever, but actually being able to perform it in a believable way and a powerful way is completely different. And I mean, you could see someone do two people do exactly the same trick, but one could give you a real experience that you'd remember, whereas the other person might be impressive, but it doesn't have the same power. And that's what's interesting about magic.
This goes back to the wow factor that we were talking about earlier. So you'll get some things on TikTok which are almost more of a puzzle, where you kind of go, well, how was that done? And then they'll do a thing where they go, well, it was over here or hidden here, or that's how that was done. And that, for me, that's just solving puzzles. That's just answering a puzzle. Magic is much more than a puzzle, because, I understand the fundamentals of playing the piano. I understand what makes that music come out. I understand what makes the sound. I cannot play the piano to save my life, but I understand how a piano works. And the same thing with understanding how a magic trick works. Understanding how a magic trick works, and even understanding how to hide something or perform a sleight, does not make you a magician. It makes you knowledgeable about that one tiny fraction. Walking out on stage and performing or doing, I would say that and I'm not blowing our trumpets, I think walking out and doing what we've done on Britain's Got Talent live, there's no retakes. It is what it is. You're walking out in front of not a theatre full, not 2,500 people in a theatre. You're walking out to millions of people, all sitting there glued to their TVs. And if you fall or you make a mistake, everyone's going to see it. And for me, I think there is no higher pressure as a performer than that. There can be none other. Even when you go on tour, and, obviously when you go on tour and you do a show, or if I do a theatre show, whatever, especially a theatre show, very different to a corporate performance, but a theatre show, they're there for you. It's like Richard Jones doing a show. We've got to get our ticket. So, of course, people bring other people along that might, not necessarily know us as well, but fundamentally 80% of that audience are there because they support you and know you. So if you do make a bit of a mistake or something doesn't go quite to plan, as life happens sometimes, you've got an audience that are friendly. You've got a friendly crowd of people that are backing you, and you can have a good old laugh about it. But when it's on television, like on BGT, there is no I don't think there's any greater pressure than that for a magician, especially on a show. When you think about it, when you did it, you did it in 2016, and BGT had only just made that turn of thinking that magic was actually it's not bad,
Yeah.
is it? You know what I mean? Prior to that, I mean, you had Jamie Raven the year before you, but before that, I mean, I was asked to do Britain's Got Talent, I think back in 2013. You know, you get an email comes through and it sort of says, would you like to audition for Britain's Got Talent? And I remember going, no thanks, because magicians just did not do well on that show at all. And I was just busy in my own life and work and performing. But, you know, I think fair shout to you guys, you know, and Jamie as well for taking the leap and kind of and making it an easier segue for people like me and X and you know, Maddox and you know, the other magicians that have done well on the show. You know, you guys have sort of set that pathway a little bit, made it a bit easier for us to tread.
Well, to an extent, I think I think I was quite lucky in that sense that I feel like there was probably less pressure for me than a lot of magicians, because when you think as a magician, if that's your full-time income and you go onto a show and for whatever reason you might even do a great performance, but it just might not come across well on TV, or you might go on and something might actually mess up and BGT might highlight that mistake. If that happened, it could potentially ruin your career. You could, to a certain extent, it might affect your bookings. But I mean, I was quite lucky that obviously I'm full-time Army up until 2016, and I just did magic. I mean, I did a lot of shows, but mainly only for the Army guys, and just for people when I enjoyed it, when I had time, when I enjoyed putting stuff together to perform, but I wasn't really making any money out of it. It wasn't really my income. So I think going on it, if I had done terribly, which I could have done, I probably would have just not really performed for a while, maybe never again. But I mean, I certainly wouldn't have affected me as much as it would have done with a lot of pros, and I think that put off a lot of pros for a number of years because it was so risky. But I think now, I mean, the amount of incredible entertainers who have been on BGT now, it's obviously it's a safer bet now. I think BGT tries not to embarrass anyone anymore, whereas I think early days maybe they did.
Yeah, I think you know, I think when the show's kind of, you know, I mean, it's Paul Potts won it in 2010, wasn't it? 2010, and that was when it kind of was in its. Wasn't that the first series? Was in 2010, I think.
It would have been 2006, I think, because I won 2016, and that was the 10-year anniversary. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. So there you go. So yeah, 2000. Okay. So I think that like shows go through lots of different transitions, I guess, and I sort of think like now I sort of think the comedy, like you know, John Courtney was just brilliant. You know, just the timing was perfect, and I remember when he got the golden buzzer, I actually had a conversation with Jonathan. With John before the actual live shows. We've got a mutual friend in a guy called Jamie Allen, who's a fantastic magician, and he connected us. He just sort of said, you know, I've got a friend John. He's just got the golden buzzer from Ant and Deck. Obviously, you guys have trodden different acts, but you've trodden similar paths. Just wondered if I could connect you both, and John and I had a Zoom call because obviously the times were Zoom, and I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really good. I thought he reminded me very much of a sort of modern day Victoria Wood. It's not that long ago, but a sort of a male version of Victoria Wood, and just really good. And I think that comedy. I think it's difficult for magicians this year. For a magician to win it this year was really difficult. And that's because there were 5 magicians in the final. So when you've got 5 magicians in the final, that now makes it really tricky because your lovers of magic are now split. They've got, you know, that act that they could vote for, or that act, or that act, and that act. So now the magic vote, if you like, is going to be spread amongst 5 different types of magician. So you had Aidan from Ireland, who was just hilarious. You know, and you had Jasper, who was, I think Jasper's only 13 years old, but did really well as well. So I think you know what? It's really strange because the 2016, the only magician that I remember is you. I don't know what other magicians there were in 2016, and that's no discredit to them. It's just I just remember 2016 as being you.
I think there was a number of magicians, but in all honesty, I can't remember in my head all of the years, like from 2016
Oh,
2018, have kind of all muddled. So I can't remember who exactly was on my year. But same for yourself. You had quite a few magicians your year.
yeah.
Were you the year of
So
Izzy as well?
no,
Was
no,
it?
Izzy was 2017, so the year after
Right.
you, and then I was 2018. But in my, there was no magic act in the final of 2018. So it was Maddox, obviously semi-finalist. I was a
Yeah.
semi-finalist. We had Mandy Mooden as well, who's a semi-finalist, and none of us got through to the final. And then as X into, I don't know what happened in 2019. You had myself, you had Ben Hart. We were in the final. You had
Mm.
4MG, who were magicians,
Oh
and
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
I know. Oh my god, my brain. Escapologist, a good friend of mine. God.
The
Oh,
Canadian.
yeah. No, he's not. He's English. But oh my god, that is so embarrassing. Hung upside
Uh,
down, set himself on fire. I mean, you sort of think,
oh,
yeah. Anyway.
Jonathan Goodwin.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan
Yeah, yeah.
Goodwin. God, sorry, Jonathan. My brain. I can see you in all your muscular glory, but brain is just like it's a Friday night, long week. Yeah, but so Jonathan's more of an escapologist, but again, I guess you could kind of put it into the sort of magical mystery genre. So
Yeah.
there was quite a lot of us that year as well. So yeah, Magic's done really, really well. But I think the more popular it becomes, I think the next magician winner is going to have to be a year where there's only two magicians in the final, because I think
Yeah.
that just the vote gets spread so much. So yeah, what other questions have we got? Because I'm
So we've
really
got one
conscious.
here. Ellie says, "Who's the most famous person you've performed for since BGT?"
Okay, you go first.
Um, I did a gig. Probably the most starstruck I've been is I did a gig where it was Jason Momoa,
Okay, yeah,
and sat next to him was Jean Claude Van Damme,
yeah. Wow.
and
Okay.
sat next to him was Jackie Chan. And
Right.
it was an
Okay.
event, incredible event in Saudi Arabia, and I'd been booked to go, but I was on the bill with these guys. There was a number of other people, my level, that were entertained as well, but they were the three headliners.
Sure.
And I was sat in the green room with those three guys doing magic for them before they went on. They were just going to be interviewed on stage, but it was just amazing because they're like everyone's coolest people growing up, like all the coolest people, the fighting gods on TV
Well,
on
yeah,
the
to
in the
me, Jackie
films.
Chan is like an absolute legend. I mean, like
You know what? It
mega.
was really funny as well. So I did a thing. I wasn't sure if he'd like it or not, so I was a little bit worried about doing it. But there's a famous illusion that a lot of magicians do now, which I won't explain what it is, but where it involves taking a mark off of an object and throwing it, and you get your spectator to try and imagine with their mind to try and grab that mark that you've marked on a bit of paper. Imagine it grabbing it, and then they open up their hand and it appears. It's an amazing illusion where it appears on a hand. And I remember saying to Jackie Chan, I was nervous about this, but I remember saying to him, now I know you're a legend and you're supposed to be very quick, but I know you're getting a little bit old now, Jackie Chan, and I want to test you've still got the same speed that you used to have. So and I was really nervous saying this. I was trying to say it in a funny way, but I was nervous he'd be offended. But he laughed, and then I did this trick where I threw this imaginary mark at him, and he was really quick, and then the mark appeared on his hand, and it was an incredible reaction that I got from those three. It was really funny.
Yeah, that's the moment you just want that to be filmed, don't you? You just need that on
Yeah.
camera.
You know what the frustrating thing is? There was a lady there who started filming when I started that trick. And I asked her afterwards, I said, would you mind sending that to me? She said she would. I gave her my number. But I never received that video. And I'm not sure why, but I'm just hoping one day I'll find it on YouTube.
Oh, mate,
and
you need to airdrop that in the moment. That needs to be
Yeah,
airdropped.
yeah.
You know what? I've been really lucky. I've even before Britain's Got Talent, I worked in the early sort of 2000s. I mean, I'm talking like 2001. I started design. Because I've got a background in illustration and design. I actually designed illusions and would illustrate them for a magician called Simon Drake many, many, many years ago. And I worked with Simon for 10 years. And I was kind of like he was my mentor, if you like, in a lot of ways. So I ended up doing performances where we performed at George Harrison's house.
Wow.
George Harrison is one of the Beatles, so we performed at George Harrison's house probably about 2000, and I would say actually no, that might early 2000s. I'd say that's probably about 2000, something like that. Sorry, no, I'm getting this wrong. I actually started working with Simon Drake in the early 90s. Sorry. So I performed at George Harrison's house for George Harrison and his family probably about 1993. So this is going way back. I performed for Eric Clapton twice. I've met a lot of people. Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd performed for him and his children. So I've met some really famous people. For me, I would say Eric Clapton to me is just a bit of he's a god in his genre of guitar playing. So I remember I performed it was in Knightsbridge this was 2018. So I'd just gotten the Golden Buzzer, but it hadn't been televised. So I was just performing at a gig in Knightsbridge. And it was for Bernie Ecclestone, who owns and runs F1, and it was his wife's birthday. So then Eric Clapton is one of the guests there, and I'd performed for Eric Clapton probably about 15 years earlier at Simon Drake's House of Magic in South London, and so I went up. I felt like I could go up to Eric and kind of go, "Hey, Eric, how you doing?" Right, because I did this thing. I hammer nails into I don't do it so much anymore, but I did this thing where I hammer nails into my nasal cavities, and I did it. And Eric Clapton saw this performance in the early 2000s, and I knew that he wouldn't forget that. So I went up to him at this performance. I went, Eric, you won't remember me, but you'll remember something that I did. I got these nails, I hammered them in my face, and he looked at me and he went, "My God, I remember that." Ended up doing some magic for him. And imagine, I mean, I'm no cardistry expert, but I can shuffle and do a few things. So I'm shuffling the cards. And Eric Clapton, he goes, "You've got amazing hands." And when you think this is Eric Clapton, and I remember I sort of said, and I looked at him because I'm quite sort of, I've got a good amount of confidence. I just went, "Eric, you do know that you're quite good with the old hands as well." And we had a laugh about it. But it's just Eric Clapton, this god of guitar, is telling me I'm shuffling some cards, and he's going, "Got amazing hands, Mark." So I'd say Eric Clapton, and he was really, really, really nice. Such a lovely guy. Really, really sweet.
That's good to hear. It's interesting. People always ask what people like in real life. And it's interesting that, well, it's interesting how sometimes the people that you really admire, sometimes you might meet them and you'd be a little bit disappointed, but some people are just as amazing in real life. He's obviously no doubt one of those people. I won't mention any other names because I've been disappointed by some people, but
have you? I've
been mainly impressed.
I've only ever been disappointed by people that I did a performance in Chicago, and this was for Richard Branson. God, name drop.
Oh wow, okay.
Clanging things all over the place, right? So, and again, this was before Britain's Got Talent. So I was in Chicago, and it was after sort of 9/11. A lot of flights from the UK to America, you couldn't do direct flights. They had to operate in a different way for security reasons after 9/11. Yeah. And it was the first time that the Virgin flight from Heathrow, London, could go direct to Chicago. They re-established this connection. And as a celebration, Richard Branson wanted magicians, and he had some singers, and the cast from Chicago, the musical, all on the plane. We all flew over to Chicago, and it was this massive party. But there was an artist, and again, I'm not going to mention their name, but I would sort of say they're a little bit, I wouldn't say they were A-list celebrity. Mm-hmm. I would say that a bit more B-list. And I mean, and I'm Z-list. I'm right down. I'm X-list.
We both are, yeah.
I'm X-list, right? I'm all right with that. But the ego with this person was, I was like, wow, okay, that's quite surprising. But then they had some real amazing A-list guests who were just as normal as you like, just Didn't matter. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. So yeah.
We've got another question here from Morgan, who I know is a magician. He's learning magic. He said, "What was the first trick you ever learned?"
First trick I ever learned, I would say, actually, I'll tell you exactly what it was. The first trick that I ever learned was pulling a coin, like just being able to show my hands kind of empty. There's a clue. Wonder how that works.
Suspiciously phrased, yeah.
Yeah, right. And then pulling a coin from behind my ear, and I was watching Doug Henning on television. So this is again how old I am. And he pulled a coin from a child's ear, and I thought that looks amazing. Like, he had two kids on stage with him, that classic kind of, and I love those moments. You get kids up on stage and do some magic with them. It's just a brilliant, brilliant theatre. And he had two children up, and he was doing some coin magic, and he just reached up and pulled this coin. And I remember I was very good at sort of just working things out. So I went into my room, and I remember I had this wardrobe with this one slim line bit of mirror down the middle of it. I remember just standing there for literally like an hour, just sort of trying to work out how best to maneuver this coin so it looked like it was coming out of my ear. So I'd say that was the first trick that I ever learned, if you can call that a trick. It wasn't really anything much more than pulling a coin from behind your ear, but that kind of thing.
So how old were you when you started then?
About 7.
Okay.
About 7.
Have you always been has magic always been your profession? I know you've got background in graphics and design.
So I fell in love with magic when I was about 6, 7 years old. Started actually performing magic when I was 7. Just family, just at Christmas time, like I'd get the book that I'd waited for all year and open it up and then study it and then do a few tricks from it and stuff. And I was actually just quite good at doing it. And then I'd watch, like a lot of young magicians at the time, you'd watch all the magic specials that were on television. Obviously, no YouTube back then, so I'd watch all the TV shows and record them and watch them back again and again and again and try and work things out. And I could just work these things out. So like Statue of Liberty vanishing, I watched it about 3 times and then went, I think I know what's happening. And that was in 1985. So then I was 14. And I sort of did sketches. I thought that could work. That so could work. And it was years later when I started working with Simon Drake, and he said, "Yeah," he goes, "That's basically this." And I was like, "That's." And I showed him the sketches, and he would go, "Yeah, that's right." So I just had this really sort of weird way of. I've never ever seen a magic trick that I cannot work out, which sounds like a boast, but it's deeply frustrating because I love watching magic and being not fooled, entertained, amazed. I love it. Yeah. Absolutely love it, because I think when you do magic and you perform magic, and I think you'll know this yourself, having been performing magic as you do, the more you learn magic, the less you ever experience what it was that made you fall in love with magic in the first place. And that element of wonder, we kind of give that up. We kind of go,
it's a sacrifice.
We sacrifice the wonder of magic but share it. And that's why I'm kind of quite passionate about the secrets. I mean, I don't mind, some of the YouTube videos and some of the tutorials and stuff. I don't mind when they're done the right way. When it's a serious tutorial, there's, credit given to the people that have actually, I mean, we stand on, this as much as I do. We stand, like you raising Chung Ling Soo. Now, when I think about X and like behind the mask and having my friend pretend he's my manager, now I kind of think, wow, that is like so like Chung Ling Soo. It's like I've only thought about that tonight having this discussion with you. But I stand on the shoulders of giants. There are people that have come. I'm so lucky that I've been able to do magic the way that I have, and being X and performing and doing a dedication for Tessa and Isabella. Honestly, if my magic career ended now, if that was it, I would say, you know what, I didn't do too bad, and I'm really happy with what I've done. But there are people that have created the things that we use. I mean, from nothing. From absolutely nothing, they've come up with these incredible ideas and principles that we use. So I think that I realize that as time goes on and times change and people learn in different ways, libraries. I mean, I used to go to libraries just to find magic books. I'd see a library and tell my dad to pull over. Can I quickly go in there, Dad? and going to the library just to see if I could, find a couple of magic books I'd not seen before. And that's how you learnt secrets back then. So now times have changed and it is different. But I just sort of think there are some YouTube channels and some even TikTok channels, like a mutual friend of ours, Magic Singh, is really famous on TikTok. I mean, he's got millions of followers on TikTok. But he does it so well. Doesn't do any exposure, doesn't teach any magic tricks at all. But he's got a great following by doing really good magic in under a minute. Really lovely clips. And if you haven't seen Magic Sing on TikTok, he's really, I mean, he's been on there for a good while, re-established himself. And he's got some lovely magic tricks that he does on there. And he does it with charm and it's lovely. And for me, that's what magic deserves. I think there's a guy called Daniel Madison on YouTube. And Daniel he's like an underground card guy, really cool and, that kind of thing. And he does tutorials on YouTube, but his videos are about 25 minutes long. And he'll have loads of elements where he'll talk about where it's come from and what it's all about. And and I know that the casual observer is not going to go on Daniel Madison's YouTube and sit there for 20 minutes to learn a secret in card magic. He's not going to. So that for me is the right way to do it on YouTube. It's that sort of, because you've got to commit to watching it and understanding it to then learn that one little secret that Daniel might be teaching in that moment. Whereas someone that just sort of kind of goes, it's in my hand. To me, I don't really get that. I think that's a little bit disrespectful to the art of magic.
Yeah, and it ruins it for the person that accidentally stumbles across that video. So that someone who it takes that element of magic away from them, and they're witnessing. It allows them to not see it the same way ever again.
Absolutely, and you know what? But I in the early 2000s, maybe the late 1990s. There was, ironically, a magician called the Masked Magician, which is kind of unlike X, but very, very different.
It wasn't Marc. Yeah, it wasn't.
No, it so wasn't me, right? But the Masked Magician, it was just this constant, almost belittling of magic. And it's like, the magician comes out and does these waves, and these girls come on and do this, and that's all there is to it. And it was very derogatory to magic. And I remember at the time saying to a friend of mine, I'm going to have to find another profession because magic's dead. And I really thought that was the demise of magic. It was on ITV, thousands of people, millions of people watching these shows. Yeah. But fast forward, David Blaine, Derren Brown, Dynamo, Britain's Got Talent, all of us lot that have done really well. So I've come to realize that magic is far stronger than the secrets that we kind of want to. And I think that you can have all these exposures and these kind of clickbait, follow me, here's a secret kind of moments, but I think people soon forget it. I think they do. I think they soon forget it, and then a good orchestrated choreographed piece of magic will always supersede that kind of quick reveal just to get a few more follows.
Absolutely. So Bonnie here has said, has anyone ever told you resemble Paul McCartney? But a lot younger version.
Oh, bless. That's very, very kind. Yeah, no, I have had a couple of people say that. I've also had the lead singer of Green Day as well.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
I can vaguely picture him, and maybe.
Yeah, so there's the lead singer of Green Day as well. And I was in New York with my two nieces, Tessa's nieces, my nieces. And they are both beautiful young girls. So I'm walking through Times Square, and this American guy stopped me, and he went, "Oh my God!" And he was convinced I was the lead singer of Green Day, and because I had these two gorgeous girls by the side of me as well, and they were amazed. They were going, "Oh my God!" He thought that you were this, And then it was really weird because we then crossed over a crossing near Times Square, and another guy came up and went, "Marc Spellman." He goes, "I love your stuff." So my two nieces, and this is before Britain's Got Talent. This is way before. And what it was is there's a couple of famous magic shops in New York. Manhattan's quite a small area when you think about it. And there's two really famous magic shops. One is called Tannen's Magic Shop in New York. And they sold my DVDs there. I have these DVDs out that teaches you magic from years and years and years ago. for magicians. I should point out, for magicians. And this guy just owned the DVD. So it's really weird. It's a bizarre moment. In 1 second, there's this guy thinking I'm the lead singer from Green Day. Turn the corner, and then this other person goes, "My God, you're Marc Spellman." So my two nieces, even before BGT, thought that I was just super cool. Like, that's the uncle. That's like, so yeah. But don't forget, Richard, I've got a question. I've got a question for you as well. After.
Okay.
I did mention. I said to you, I've got a question for you, but I'm going to ask you live. And
I'm slightly terrified.
No, don't be.
Be.
No, don't. I promise you, everything I do is done with love, and I'm just curious. I'm curious to know, because it's a situation that we've both been in, a unique position that very few people will ever experience. But I'll ask that question after.
Okay.
What other questions have we got?
So actually, this is Bonnie as well, but it's a good question. It's not actually a question. It is, where has it gone? It's just something that's interesting. So Bonnie also said the voice of X is amazing. Who is the voice of X? Are you allowed to say? Well, I suppose it is X's voice, but how does it come about?
It's common knowledge. So basically now, so what happened was, when I came up with Prank all the way back in 2011, fast forward now to doing BGT, I literally had this picture of Prank. I went over to the house, and my studio's at the back of the garden, and it's 2 floors. It's a really weird sort of building that we've got at the back of the garden. We sort of excavated out ground and stuff and whatever. So I went over to the house, and I said to Tessa, I went, "BGT." She went, "Yeah." And I was like, "I'm going to do it again." And she went, "Okay, all right. Are you all right? Had a drink? What's happening?" And I took out this picture of Prank, and I said, "I'm going to do it in a mask, anonymous." And this, sorry, I didn't actually reiterate, finish the point I was making earlier. With the whole, you get the really amazing comments, but you get the negatives. And part of the idea behind X and being anonymous and having no backstory was because it was in the polar opposite to the way that I'd done it before. So I could be incognito, no one would know it was me, which I really liked, but also there was no backstory. You couldn't ask X any question about where's he from, she from. You don't know if it's a male or a female or whatever. So that was another reason why I wanted to do Britain's Got Talent again as X, to prove that forget the backstory, forget any of that sort of history or notion. This is just a guy, someone in a mask. You don't know who they are, but yet you can still, with good magic, hopefully entertaining, a nice message behind it, still do well on the show. Because I always felt slightly annoyed. Like, it's like, and I'm not saying this because we're friends, but your magic on the show, for someone who didn't do magic as a full-time occupation, the magic that you did on Britain's Got Talent, I remember watching your audition and thinking, well, great audition, like brilliant audition. Like the bit with David Walliams touching the head, brilliant.
Yeah, thanks.
So, no, but I mean it, and I don't say stuff for effect. I say it because I mean it, and your audition, your semi-final and the final were all pinpoint perfect, really well delivered, really well done. And your semi-final was, and this is where I fell down, my semi-final was never going to live up to my audition. It was just Golden Buzzer, Ant and Dec, and the story. It was just so hard to do anything that was going to equal that. But for me, your semi-final with the torn page and everything else and all matching up, I thought that was stronger than your audition. But I still thought your audition was really strong. So you did it the right way. Great audition, get through, semi-final, boom, next step up, another level, get through to the final, and then bring that story in about Fergus and the inspiration. Just personalize it. It was brilliant. But that you're a soldier. So you're going to get people that are going to go, oh, he gets votes because he's a soldier. Well, no, he did. He got votes and he won the show because he did great magic. He did really good magic. And how stupid would it be not to mention that you're a soldier? That's part of who you are. So for me, with my whole audition, the Golden Buzzer audition, it wasn't about sort of kind of getting the sob story. The magic was kind of like, here's a magic trick, but this is not magic. The real magic is this. And it's like my daughter and my wife and all the struggles and life. And that's the point. So, but then doing it as X and coming back again and wearing the mask was a way of kind of going, no, no, you know what? None of that. Won't do any of that. And I guarantee you, good, strong magic will still get through and still work. And to the point where I came second. So, yeah, so that was the point of that. So, oh God, what was the question that you just asked me?
Who's the voice of? How did the
Oh,
voice of X come about?
So when I went to the house and I said to Tessa, I'm gonna do it as X. As at the time, I had no idea of the name of X at that point, right? I just said to Tessa, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be masked, incognito. I'm going to go back anonymous, like Banksy, kind of like no one knows who is this, who is it, you know? Yeah. And then Tessa said to me, how are they going to connect? How is the great British public, how are they going to connect with someone in a mask looking like that, right? In a hoodie, not popular, you know, right? With a mask on, how are they going to connect? And I said, by what I say, by what I mean, and by what the messages that I convey. So then I recorded some sort of philosophical things that I kind of came up with about us as being connected and as one. And, you know, when we're connected, we are far stronger than when we're disconnected, all that kind of stuff. And I recorded it. And I thought, right, I can't do it in my voice. I was on Britain's Got Talent the years before. Can never do it like that. They'll recognize the voice. So I thought, I've got to distort it. So I distorted it, put it through a bit of software, and I distorted it. And I played it. I said, Tessa, listen, what do you think? Played it to Tessa, and Tessa went, that is horrific. That is absolutely petrifying. You're wearing a mask, you've got a hoodie on, and now this demonic voice, we are all connected. She goes, it's petrifying. And we've got a really good friend of ours, a friend of Tessa's, we've now become a friend of mine now, obviously through the relationship, is a lady called Melanie. And Melanie she's got a lovely speaking voice. She's got a really good speaking voice. And I said I remember she comes and stays with us once a week. She works with Tessa, and she lives all the way up in Hertfordshire. She'll come and stay over, and we will have a bit of dinner and stuff. And one night I just said, Mel, can you do me a favour? And I bought my little Zoom recorder, like not a Zoom call, it's like a little microphone thing. I said, can you read these lines and can I record your voice? So she did it. She had no idea what it was for, recorded it, and then I came back over into the office and then sort of did the same distortion on it. And I thought, God, that sounds so much better. The fact that it's a woman's voice is softens everything, makes it a lot more non-threatening. It's not that demonic sound. Even though X sounds a little bit kind of different, you know it's a female voice. And I think that straight away is softer and nicer. And, you know, and I always say this, psychologically, if you imagine a monster, you know, your biggest fear, now give it a really nice female voice, straight away it softens it. So I then just sort of had to come clean with Mel, and I showed Tessa, and Tessa went, God, that works. It does work. Mm. So then I just said to Melanie, I said, Melanie, there was only 4 people that knew. 5, sorry. It was Tessa that knew. Colin, obviously, because he was going to come with me and be my manager. Melanie and my mum. And that was it. They were the only people that knew at the very, very beginning of me before I went up to Manchester and did the audition. And Melanie was great. She just said, yeah, cool. So I used to send her all these things and she'd record them all. And when she came here on a Wednesday night, we'd record them and stuff. And that was it. And it's really interesting because if you listen to the first audition that I did as X, there's a bit where I say to Ant and Dec to draw on the boards. Mm-hmm. Please hold the boards, close your eyes, and they just sit there and they sort of move the pens around. And I count back from 10. So you hear X's voice go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the very last 3, 2, 1, when you hear 2 and 1, it's Isabella's voice. So if you listen, it's clearly a child's voice. And that was Isabella's voice. I got her to count back. I said to her, count back 3, 2, 1, and then put that in my computer and distorted it a little bit. But that's is nice Isabella's voice. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm always about that. I always love having those elements in it. So there's a Christian Nardi in the Christmas special. If you look at Christian Nardi, he's wearing the same jumper that I wore in the audition in 2018. So it's the same kind of like burgundy top because it was really funny when I was coming up with Christian Nardi for the Christmas special. And for those of you that haven't seen it, jump on YouTube, BGT Christmas special. For that, I was going through my wardrobe and I thought, right, I really don't want Christian Nardi to be in black because X wears black. I'm going to be in black. Ant's going to be in black. So it's got to be something color. Mm-hmm. And I wear a lot of black. So I went through my wardrobe and then this one jumper stood out and I went, oh my God, there's the jumper that I auditioned in 2018. And was like, that's perfect. That will do. So that's what Christian Nardi's wearing in that. So you'll see it's exactly the same jumper. And I've got a fan of mine called Chloe, who's lovely. She kind of always watches stuff and follows me, and she's really, really lovely. And she's the only person, she said, I knew Christian Nardi was going to be you because that was the same jumper you had on in the audition. And I was like, wow.
She rumbled it. Wow.
You should be a detective because no one else has spotted that apart from Chloe. So, yeah.
You know what's interesting? When you first went onto stage as X, obviously the whole magic community was trying to figure out who is this guy. What I like about what you did as well is, I mean, I wasn't backstage during that year at all, but I did talk to some of the BGT team. I keep in touch with them. And supposedly, from what I understand, is you never took off the mask, even behind the scenes. No one ever saw your face. And what's kind of funny is I've got a good friend, one of my best friends in magic, who helps me out in all my Brits Got Talent performances, is James Cooper. And I remember him saying to me early on, it was still the stages where we didn't know it was you, but we're all speculating. I remember him saying to me, I know it's Marc because I recognise his shoes. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if you've got a special pair of shoes or something, but I remember dismissing that like, okay, that's a strange reason to know that it's him. But then it turned out it was you. So I assume you've got some sort of interesting shoes.
No, it's not. I'll tell you exactly what it is. I know James, obviously, and when I did I think it was the Magical Society that used to be, I don't know if you're still a member of it. Obviously, all these magical societies are not doing anything at the moment, but I think it was the Essex Society of Magicians.
Mid-Essex Magic Society, yeah.
Yeah, so I did the Christmas event, and this was I think it was just before actually the X, so the Christmas before the X audition in February.
Yeah.
And I just got these shoes. Me and Tessa had been away to America, and I bought these shoes in America. They're just shoes, but they are sort of, because I hate tying up laces and stuff. So I just wear slip-on shoes. So when I auditioned as X, because if you look at the audition as X, I'm in a suit. It wasn't like afterwards I had like the sort of vest thing on and everything else, and it's evolved over time. But back then it was just like black suit, black shoes, black gloves, black mask, black hoodie with the mask on. So maybe that's why. But it's funny. There was a couple of people that speculated. So it was really interesting because I remember being there at the audition and the reveal day. You know when they tell you who's through to the semi-finals. So I had to turn up for that. And just to give people an idea of how this worked, and I have got video footage of all of this. As I say, I'm useless with YouTube. But I've got diary footage of me and Colin driving up the motorway to Manchester, where we're going up to Manchester. And I did it. I said, I'll do this as a video diary and I'll put it up on my YouTube channel. Never did. I've got it all, but I never put it edited together and put it, and did it. So it's literally us driving up to Manchester. So you see us like literally leaving the hotel. It wasn't a hotel. We hired an apartment up in Manchester because I didn't want to be in a hotel where there'd be other BGT contestants. So I hired an apartment so I'd be away from everyone. I mean, we went really full on. So even going to the audition that day in Manchester, and the reason why I did it in Manchester was because I live in London. I know a lot of London magicians, and I know that if they're auditioning for Britain's Got Talent, most of them are going to try and go to the Palladium and do it at the London Palladium. So I thought, right, if I'm going to do this as X, we audition in Manchester. That's going to be, I know magicians all over the country, but, that I thought that'd be a better thing to try and do, just distance myself from London a little bit. And when we went up to Manchester, we went to this apartment, but I'm not joking, even driving through Manchester, I had a baseball hat on and sunglasses. We got to the apartment and a representative came out. It was like an Airbnb. And she came out and we went upstairs and I had sunglasses and a baseball hat on the whole time. And then only once the door shut, we went over the rehearsals for the performance about 18 times that night. Woke up in the morning and then we got an Uber from downstairs. Colin's booking all of this on his phone. We drove up in his car so that my registration plate wouldn't be seen. It was nuts.
It's like a CIA operation, this.
Totally. And then even going into Britain's Got Talent, I got dressed up as X. And imagine we're in this apartment block, went downstairs, the underground car park where this Uber's pulled up. And there's X walking up to this guy in an Uber, right? The guy's looking, and then Colin's ahead of me, and he's kind of gone, "It's all right, BGT, Britain's Got Talent. We're going to the Lyric, is the Lyric? No, not the Lyric. The Lowry Theatre in Manchester." So I'm sitting in, and I've got footage of me and Colin in the back of this, and I'm dressed as X. And we go into the theatre, and there was only one moment, because as you go into the theatre, you go through all the security. But I've got my forms and stuff. And this is a thing that a lot of people don't realise is that my forms were filled out in my real name. And my real name is not Marc Spellman. So that's how I could get around that. Spellman is a stage name that was given to me from Simon Drake in about 1995. And that's only because my surname is really difficult to pronounce. So I changed my surname. My first name is Marc, but my surname is not Spellman. So when I auditioned as X, all my birth certificate and passport details and driver's license is all in my real name. So I could slip through the net so easily.
Yeah. So no one in the BGT team even knew?
For the audition in Manchester, absolutely no one knew.
Wow.
So at that moment, what happens is when I get through to the audition, we did the audition, and the production loved it. They thought it was so fun. They're going, who is it? And they're going, we don't actually know.
Well, so I suppose they would probably be paranoid that if you got to the final then and you revealed yourself in the live shows and it turns out you're a well-known crazy person or something, that could be terrifying for the VGT.
Exactly. So when I went through to the live shows, then I got an email. And again, this is a lesson that people, or information that people don't necessarily know. I have spoken about this elsewhere, like in a couple of interviews. But basically, after that audition in Manchester, I didn't know if that was going to be it. Again, I'm not like, I don't sort of automatically think, oh, yeah, that's me through to the live shows. You never know. I thought to myself, they might think, yeah, that was quirky, Ant and Dec, nice moment, but yeah, that's it. We've got the other magicians that are going through. So you never know. And I had no idea. And then when I went to the reveal day, I still didn't know. So I'm standing there on the Palladium stage dressed as X, and you got Amanda and Simon all sitting there. And they went, you guys are very unconventional, but, Britain's Got Talent is all about diversity and variety. So you're through to the next round. And then straight away, one of the production went up to Colin and they said, we need to have a private talk with you. So then it was me and Colin. I'm still as X, I don't talk to anybody. And Colin's talking to them and they're saying, we're going to send you some emails and some legal requirements, but someone's going to have to know who X is just to clear it, just legally.
Yeah, of course.
To clear it. So then only one production person it was actually one production person, and then their assistant found out who X was. But it was the meeting that we had about that was crazy. So it was down in Wimbledon, not Wembley, Wimbledon, and it was in an office. And I was as X, turned up in the office, and I had gotten my lawyer to do a non-disclosure agreement so that they would have to sign. I would sign whatever they wanted me to sign, but they had to sign a non-disclosure agreement that would say that they cannot, beyond those four walls, say who X is. So everyone, It was amazing. Like, we're all sitting there, we're all signing bits of paper. And then the production members sat there and went, okay. And then I took the mask off and they knew me from 2018. And and I won't say what they said, but let's just say there were a few expletives there. There was a couple of words of like, oh my God. But then from that moment, they said, no one. And I was going, no, I know. And they were going, no one can find out who X is. And
It would have
even
ruined
like,
it if anyone would have found out.
no, and you
It
know
would have
what?
been all
And
over the
thing is,
press.
exactly. And the thing is that's really interesting is you get, again, comments that come up on like Twitter and YouTube and that kind of thing is, oh, this show's so fake. You're telling me that Simon Cowell, the boss, didn't know. And I remember when I did America's Got Talent, the Champions, I came out in the semi-finals of that. So I got through to the semi-finals and came out. And just as I'd finished, when you do these shows, you have a producer or someone who's always with you, a runner, or someone that on production that looks after you. And they came into my dressing room, and they said, "Mark, Simon wants to see you." And I was like, "Simon." And we're like, "Yeah, Simon." So I went down, and then I went to Simon's dressing room, and Simon was there, and he was so, and when I tell you, just so lovely. He just went, he goes, "Mark," he goes, "I wanted you in that final for America's Got Talent, the Champions." Because he knew that he didn't know what I was going to do, but he knew that I was going to have some sort of a thing going on. And I did. And I've never told anybody what it is, but it was there. There was a massive, massive thing going on the Champions that would have been brilliant, but I never made it. Who knows? Maybe another day, right? But Simon said to me, he goes, we sat there about half an hour, just me and him in his dressing room, talking about father, because Eric now obviously in his life. So we were just talking about being parents, and he was talking to me about my journey in 2018, then coming back as X. And at the end of it, he said to me, "Have you got any questions?" He goes, and he was so lovely. He said, "Any of these shows, you please come back and be on them. I love what you do." And then he said, "Have you got any questions?" And I went, "Yes, yeah, I have." And he went, "Go on." And I went, and it was only me and him. I went, "Did you know? Like, did you know?" And he goes, "I will swear on Eric." He goes, "I'll tell you what happened." He goes, "That one production member that knew," he goes, "they are very close with me because they're very high up in the production." And he goes, "When you did the semi-final and you were behind me in the photograph, I turned round to them and I said, 'This X character, is it anything that I need to know?' And they turned around and they went, 'It's going to blow your mind.'" And then Simon went, "I don't want to know. Don't want to know." So that was the closest to anyone know. Simon could have. I mean, Simon is the big, but he could have turned around and said, "Right, who is X? Someone tell me." And then it would have been like, "Well, he only goes on if we know who he is." And that could have happened. But that was a conversation I had with Simon. And he just said, on Eric, I did not know. And
that's good. So, it's lucky that it's nice that he didn't ask and didn't want to know. And people always ask what he's like as a person. I always say he's one of the nicest guys you can meet. He's lovely bloke in real life.
You know, the other thing as well that I'd say about Simon as well is I think a lot of people have got this impression of him just sort of rocking up in a Bentley. I mean, he does turn up in a very nice car. But they imagine he sort of rocks up in a Bentley and then sits there for a bit and goes, "I hated it. And I loved it. It's a yes from me. There's your gold." And then he jumps in his car and drives off again. And what a lot of people don't know is that when you do the show, and you'll know this, you don't know what show you're going to be shown on until 3 or 4 days before. So you'll be kind of going, like, for me, and again for you, you did a fantastic audition. I got the golden buzzer and I'm going, and I've got Russ Stevens, who's a magician on a sort of magical consultant on the show. And I sort of said to Russ, like, do we have any idea? He's like the go-to magic guy, kind of oversees a lot of the magic. And I said, "Any idea of when I'm going to be shown?" And he was like, "They won't announce it yet. They won't announce it." And then I found out the reason why they don't announce it is because Simon watches the full episode on a Thursday with his team of people, and they all sit there and they watch the show and they go, "Is it too much magic? Too much comedy? Do we need a bit of a contrast?" So they literally finalize what you're going to see as a viewer on the Sunday, or the Saturday night on a Thursday. And that's why us as artists, as acts on the show, we only find out, like, literally, you're going to be on the show on this Saturday, and you're kind of like, "Oh my God." That's when you kind of go, "Oh my God." You tell your family, watch BGT on Saturday night. And that's why, because it is that lastminute.com, in terms of being on the show, as to, because sometimes it just might not gel right. It's like there's a really emotive, because I'm trying to remember, did you have a chat with Ant and Dec before you went on, or did you just sort of walk out on stage?
I just walked out on stage.
Okay,
yeah, in fact, it was a strange one, because I'd been ushered to the side of the stage, or just off of the side of the stage, and the lady who was there to tell me when to go on disappeared. I don't know where she went, and I was kind of in limbo. I wasn't really sure what was going on, where I was supposed to be, so I just assumed I had ages. So I was kind of chilling outside of stage until someone came rushing through about 5 minutes later and said, "Oh, they've been waiting for you." So then I kind of rushed on, really flustered, and you can see in my face I'm a little bit like shocked, like, "Oh my god, that was a bit sudden." But in all honesty, I was very pleased with my first performance, so it may well have been because I wasn't overthinking it.
Yeah, do you know what's... and in some ways that might have been a blessing. The fact that, rather than kind of going, "You're going to be on in 2 minutes, Richard," you're just sort of standing there, just kind of...
Yeah.
And then, get on, you go, But
Yeah.
for me, I actually did a whole interview with Ant and Dec. So I was by the side of the stage, and I remember this one of the production team, Adrian, I actually know his name is Adrian now, said, "Oh, Marc, can you just stand on this? There's a little bit of tape on the floor. Can you just stand on that line for us?" And I looked down at the line, I put my feet on it, and I went, "What, here?" Like this. And I looked up, and then Ant and Dec are there, which is just the weirdest thing. And the cameras are there. And then Ant and Dec are like, "Hey, so what are you going to do for us?" And then I said, "I'm going to do magic." And they go, "Oh, we love magic." So this is like the interview that you never saw. And they went, "We love magic. We love magic. Oh, magic's amazing. What kind of magic?" And I said, "Look, I'm going to show you at the end of my audition. I'm going to show you what real magic is. No trickery, no, what real magic is." And they were like, "Wow, okay, cool. What real magic?" I went like, "No, undeniable real magic." And then they said, "Well, listen, look, good luck, best of luck." And then I walked out on stage, and that's when you see me walking out. And then obviously you never saw that interview. And then I asked why. I said, obviously I've been on the show a couple of times now, done the Christmas show, so you kind of, like you kind of get to know some of the production people. And I said, "How comes they never showed the interview?" And they said, "Because it would have given away your ending. We wanted you to walk out on stage and be like, almost like, is he a magician? What is he doing?" kind of thing. And that's when Amanda kind of goes, "Are you a magician? Maybe, I don't know." And I went, "Yes, yeah, kind of, And then that was it. And they really wanted that surprise element to the ending of the act. Whereas if I'd have said that in the interview with Ant and Dec, people would have been watching going, "Oh, this is going to go somewhere. This is going to go somewhere."
Yeah,
where,
of course.
took that out. So, yeah, so it's interesting. I think a lot of the time as well, people, there's a few things to clear up for people that are listening to us. Obviously, you and I both being on the show, is the show is not, there's no fix in the show in any way. It's illegal to do that. They can't do that. The acts that go on the show, you kind of do your auditions, you get on the show, and just out of, again, credit to you, Richard, sometimes with Britain's Got Talent, there's an act that they know. Like for me, I didn't have to do all the preliminary rounds. They knew that I was an accomplished magician. They knew that I had this story to tell, and they were really interested in me auditioning for the show. So the moment I walk out of the London Palladium is the first moment I'm doing anything BGT related, really. Whereas with you, Richard, you did, I say it's the authentic route of doing where you were down at is it the Excel Centre where
you missed out the queues. The 8-hour queue is part of the fun. That's part of the excitement. Yeah. So I queued Jeff for 8 hours. In fact, something not a lot of people know, and I'm not even sure if BGT know. In fact, yeah, at least one person does know, is I actually auditioned twice in the same year. So I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but I auditioned at, so I went down to the Excel Centre, queued for about 8 hours, where you go through to like a first round, producers round, you perform, and if they like you, they give you like the golden ticket, which is just a bit of paper that says, yeah, he's through to the next round. And then you go and queue for another 2 hours to then see someone who's even more senior in the producers round to perform for them. So I did that, and I got through to that second round and performed, and I thought, oh, that was great. And then, stupidly, I can't remember how long after it was. It was a few weeks after. I saw that the auditions were going ahead again, and I at the time I was very much like, oh, if you want something, you've really got to put everything into it, and you've got to try as much as you can, work really hard. And I thought, you know what, it was quite fun last time. I'll audition again. Maybe I'll have more of a chance of getting through. And I went and queued again for about 8 hours. Did that first round, which was fine. Got through to the second round. But when I got through to the second round, it was the same guy that I'd seen in the second round like a few weeks before. Right. And so I was kind of rumbled because I went into the room and he said, I'm sure I recognise you. And I had to, he'd rumbled me. I had to say, yeah, okay, you saw me a few weeks before, just purely because the act that I was about to perform for him was obviously the same act that I did a few weeks before. So I did perform it for him again, and he said, look, you shouldn't really have come back. We've already seen your act. We know that you're good, and we've got you on a potential list. So I kind of was very embarrassed. I said, okay, no worries, left. But in my head, although that was kind of stupid because they did have me on a list. I mean, maybe it showed an extra desire to want to be a part of the show. Maybe that did make him think, he's really up for this, he's a hard worker. Maybe it didn't have any impact, but maybe if I didn't go twice, maybe they would never have remembered me from the first time. But you never know.
The last thing I would call that is stupid. I would not call that stupid at all. I would say that is grit determination and a contingency plan. It's almost like if the first lot don't put me through, then I'm going to go again. Maybe I assume you were kind of thinking you might see someone else, and then you got like you.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah. I just think that's genius. I think that's brilliant. And fair shout to you, because there's a lot of people that would not. Well, I don't know of anybody that's ever done that before. So fair shout.
No doubt next year everyone's going to do it. No doubt. They're going to the same faces
out.
Now.
You've been speaking to me. No, get out. We've seen you already. No, I think that's fair shout to you, mate. I think that's and so yeah, that's the more authentic way. So just going back to what I was saying is it's not fixed. The show can't be fixed. They can't rig votes. They can't do any of this stuff. It literally is what you see. Everyone is given the same amount of time. Everyone gets to sort of go do their rehearsals, and it is what it is. You know, if ever there was a year where you could say it wasn't rigged, was the year that Diversity won. Because Susan Boyles was like, it was like that's the winner of BGT. And she came second. So if there was ever a time that shows you that show cannot be rigged, that's the year. Because, Susan Boyles, I think for Simon at the time, being a record producer, someone in charge of musicians and singers and stuff, there's Susan Boyles, who's come from left field, who's taken the world by storm. You'd imagine that if Simon were going to kind of like manipulate the ending of the show, Susan Boyles would have been the winner. But they don't. It doesn't happen that way. It is the power of the public vote and the power of the act that wins it, and that's just the way that it is. So the show's not fake. It's not rigged. It's like even for us as magicians, there's certain techniques we use as magicians that are not allowed on the show. And Richard, you'll know if I said to you sort of pre-show, you kind of, what I'm saying when I say that, sort of some things that you might, kind of do, before a show, some preparations. But you're not allowed to use that on Britain's Got Talent. You can't do any of that. It's got to be in the flesh there and then. So the show is authentic. One thing I would say to people that maybe have got a bit of a critical eye on the show is you have to remember that the show I always say it's a television show first, and then a talent show. They've got to get viewers, they have to get people in, so they have to have a wide variety of acts. So sometimes you'll see some of these acts that come on from overseas. So you'll have like the Vietnamese brothers who did the sort of balancing act where they were walking up and down the stairs on top of each other's heads. If there was an English equivalent to that they could get on the show, they would get them on the show. It's like, get John and Brian from Norwich who do the balancing act on the heads, get them in. But, they've got to kind of fulfill all genres of entertainment. Otherwise, you'd be watching a Saturday night program full of comedians, magicians and singers. To get that variety, they have to go further afield sometimes. So,
So something, just going back to, obviously you mentioned Susan Boyle. I was in the auditorium when you did your final and when you revealed yourself, which I think was Hammersmith Apollo, wasn't it? Is that right?
Yeah.
I remember sitting really high up watching, and I was with two other magicians as well, and we had no idea who it was, and we're all speculating. And I remember the power of that moment when you took off your mask, and it was amazing. It was electric. It was incredible. But I gotta be honest. Just before you took off your mask, in my head, all I could think of is, what would be the biggest shock? We're all thinking it's going to be someone who's been on before, and obviously it's going to be someone who has done well before, and obviously it's going to be someone magic related. But in my head, I was thinking there'll be nothing more powerful than you saying, I am X, taking off your mask, and it would be Susan Boyle under there. Could you imagine?
That would have been... Listen, that would have been epic. that would have upstaged me massively.
I mean, purely on the basis that we were all expecting it to be obviously an accomplished magician, and we were all thinking it's going to be someone that we would all have heard of, so it's got to be someone who's been on BGT. But I was thinking, what a huge twist in the plot if it turned out it was no one that does magic. Someone completely random was like, Susan Boyle, yep, I thought I'd give magic a go. I am X. God, that would have been powerful.
Well, you never know, right? I might have won BGT as a singer in the future.
Yeah.
As a singer from Scotland. You don't know, right? And at the end of it, yeah, it's me again. It's an incredible program, and it's an incredible journey to take. It's, as I say, it is... that pressure that effectively we're performing in the highest pressure ever. They say that live television, there could be no higher pressure than live television. Millions and millions, and especially on a show that is going to be massive on YouTube. It's going to be massive across the world. People in America, all over the world watch it. It gets it gets shown in Australia and all across the world. Eventually, it's really funny because the other day I got messages from, God, where was it? Spain. They'd just shown my audition on Spain's Got Talent. It was a celebration of all the years of the Got Talents around the world, and they're just showing my audition. So again, you get like an influx of followers all of a sudden from Spain, which is lovely, So yeah, it's interesting because it's like that audition with Tessa and Isabella is like, it's nearly 3 years ago now. So I did that audition on the 1st or the 2nd of February, 2018. So that's 2019, 2020. Yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah.
Interesting. Before BGT, I went I think it was about 6 months before. I went on The Chase with Bradley Walsh. And the funny thing is The Chase won't be happy with me saying this, but from what I can tell, I think every year they take a few episodes and they just re-show them, just so they probably don't have to show as many episodes, no doubt. But I mean, you wouldn't know that as someone watching. But it catches them out every year because I was on it. It must have been 2015, and they aired it. They then kept every year they now re-air that same episode, and they forget that people are going to recognise me. So every year now, I get messages. It's usually once a year, I'll get an influx of messages of people saying, oh my God, can't believe I just seen you on The Chase, which I get a lot of nice messages, even though I did terribly on The Chase, did really bad. A lot of nice messages like, oh, I really enjoyed you being on The Chase. Why weren't you in the celebrity version? And other people saying, and there was even a news article, I think it was 2 years after I won BGT, a news article was put up, and it said, it was along the lines of unsuspected viewers catch Richard Jones out as he tries to secretly go on The Chase. And the whole article was about it was 2 years after the show and I must have run out of money. So I was secretly trying to get on shows and win money on The Chase, and I did terribly. But then after that, it gets revealed that, it was a repeat. And so every year then there's a big stink that, they shouldn't be showing repeats. And it kind of highlights it for them. So I'm hoping at some point they'll remember, okay, we need to stop airing that one episode.
That one. Yeah, just let's not put that one on again.
It's not very impressive. I don't do very well on it. I only get, I think it's 3,000 in the cash builder, which is only 3 questions right. So it's something I was hoping that I could forget. But every year they remind me.
Rub it in every year.
Yeah, nightmare. Yeah. I've just suddenly realised. So I usually these lives I usually only ever plan to do 45 minutes, but we've had such a good chat. We've now been on for 2 hours. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's sat through and joined us this entire time. I really appreciate you joining us. And this guy is from Norway. I'm not sure. I hope you can see these messages as they're coming up as well there, Mark. So this guy is from Norway, and he said the world needs magicians to help us to think of some positive and something positive and exciting. And I think that's so true. Magic is more important now than probably ever, because obviously it has a unique power to make people smile no matter how bad the day they've had. And I'm not sure. It's something I was hoping to ask you. Are you doing Zoom shows yourself?
Yeah, I am. I've done a lot of corporate Zoom performances. I've been meaning to kind of do a sort of public performance. I know you do some yourself. But it's been a case of getting the time in between sort of homeschooling and then sort of effectively building this place and then some of the corporate work. It's been a real challenge. But I actually think that Zoom shows, I think even when we go back to normal, whatever that is, I still think that the room for a Zoom show is still going to exist. So yeah, I will be.
It's become a unique platform now that is definitely here to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, like if you're able to, I think that the whole idea of live entertainment on a computer or an iPad or whatever, we constantly watch pre-recorded stuff like Netflix and Disney and all that kind of stuff. So the fact that real live entertainment exists that we can watch, I think it's a great showcase, because and I know that it's in terms of doing live theatre shows, there's promoters that you need to get in with, the scheduling of the theatres and stuff like that. But effectively, by having virtual shows and a virtual environment that you can perform in, means that you can decide to do a show 2 weeks before you do it, and then if you've got good followers and stuff, you can kind of go, guys, listen, next Friday night, it's not going to be the charge of a West End theatre, and people can log on and watch the show. So I think it's always going to exist. I haven't done any public performances. I've done a lot of charities over over 2020, a lot of charitable performances to raise money and funds, because charities are really struggling. As you can imagine, they can't do their fundraising and stuff. So I've really tried to throw myself into that. I'm in a fortunate position whereby Tessa's still been able to work as well. So we both still bring in a wage. So we're both okay sort of financially. I know that's not the case for so many people in the arts. They're really, really struggling. So obviously everything's safely done. But I think that the entertainment industry really has taken a massive hit, and hospitality. I mean, the agents and event organizers that we would normally work through, I mean, how they're surviving is beyond me. I don't know, but yeah. So no, so Zoom performances, absolutely. Keep your eyes posted. I will be sort of advertising some sort of unique performances.
Yeah, it'd be great to see some public ones. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. So I mean, we'll probably wrap it up soon, because it's starting to get late. But I just want to wish Loella a happy birthday for it's Monday. So it's nice. I've seen lots of people wishing her happy birthday in the chats that I've just been flicking through. So Loella is, I wonder if I've got it. Oh, you know what? I've put it up I've made my garage a little studio room, but Loella made an incredible piece of art for me, which is me and Fergus, done with little tiny beads. It's incredible. I can't really explain it, but I'll try and get it up next time I go live to show anyone who's interested. And she sent me that, and it was a massive treat. It was really lovely. It took her many hours. I believe there was something like 20,000 little beads that she'd put into this frame to create a picture. It's really incredible. I'm gutted that I don't have it here to show you. I wasn't planning on referencing it.
Well, you need to get that up on the Instagram, Richard. Get that up.
Definitely. So I just want to wish Loella a happy birthday for Monday. Thank you so much for joining us again, Loella.
Before we wrap up, I just want to wish Loella a happy birthday as well. Happy birthday, Loella. 20,000 beads. That's incredible.
Yeah. It took her many days.
Yeah, I bet it did. So here's my question. Okay.
Oh,
Are
yes.
you ready?
Okay, yeah.
Right. Okay. The question, right? It does. Don't worry. It's okay. So you and I have been in a unique position, and that is standing on the stage in the final, down to the last two people, yourself and another person. I was with Colin Thackeray. My brain is, who were you with? You were with the I remember it was a young singer guy, right?
It
A
was
crooner guy.
Wayne Woodward, yeah. Very like a Frank
Wayne Woodward.
Sinatra kind of singer, yeah.
That's
Incredible
right.
guy.
I didn't remember his name, but I remember him. So in that moment, and the winner of Britain's Got Talent 2016 is, and you know, and I know that that moment is as long as it feels.
Terrifying. My God, terrifying.
In your mind, did you think that you had won?
So there's an interesting story about this moment. And I feel like I never expected to win Britain's Got Talent. From the first moment till the final day, I never thought I could win it. Never thought I would. I never thought I could. But there was one moment that was really special. So around about 2012, 2013, I started getting really into motivational and self-help books. I used to love reading them, Tony Robbins and Paul McKenna and stuff, like positive thinking. And something that a lot of those books used to say is, if you really want something enough, you need to visualize it in your mind as to the T. As the more specific you can be, the more likely it is to become a reality. And a lot of that is like spiritual stuff, which I don't necessarily believe is real, but I still find it fascinating. And I believe the psychology behind it really does work, that if you picture something exactly how you want it, you're more likely to achieve it, because you start doing things that make that more possible. And so I believed it. And something I remember, this is only a few years of getting into magic, I used to picture myself on a theatre stage. Bear in mind, I'd never performed in a theatre stage until BGT. But something I used to always visualise before I do any performance was imagine walking out onto a dark stage, walking out into the bright light and being on stage. And a piece of music that I used to listen to a lot when I'd visualise things like the books recommended was Zadok the Priest, which those of you who don't know what Zadok the Priest is, it's the coronation music for the Queen. A very powerful piece of music that suddenly builds into a crescendo, a really powerful moment. So I used to visualize walking out to stage and listening to this music, and it used to make me feel good. It used to give me confidence before I would do close-up magic for my army friends. And the craziest thing is before Britain's Got Talent, before you go out for the final moment, you'll know the pressure. Everyone kind of gathers behind the closed doors and you're kind of high-fiving each other. It's a real buzz. No one knows who's won, but you're just all pleased to be there. Really lovely moment. Obviously, at this point in time, no one knows who you really are. So it must have been crazy. You must have no doubt been buzzing inside, but obviously you can't show that as X. But I always remember we're all excited. And I remember just thinking it's just a pleasure to be here. This is just the biggest thing ever. It's amazing. Then they count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The big screens open out. They split in the middle. And we all start walking out into the lights on live TV in front of millions of people for this crowning moment. We walk out, and as I take that first step, the music that they decided to play was Zadok the Priest. And I remember walking out, and I was getting really emotional. And I remember thinking that if I do win, then there is some sort of sign that someone has just given me at that moment. And I remember I was more emotional at that moment than the moment when I won. A lot of people say I didn't really react when I won. Although I was emotional, I don't really react in a way that is really expressive. But I think the most powerful moment was just walking out, hearing that music, walking out. And you know the experience of walking out knowing that you're in front of the biggest audience that not only have you ever performed in front of, but you can't really get that much bigger than this moment in front of all those people. And also, obviously, the love of knowing that so many people have voted for you just to be there. Cool. It was an incredible moment. But then, I mean, obviously, I see that as a sign. But, I mean, it didn't necessarily mean I was going to win. But it gave me a lovely feeling inside, even if I didn't win. And in all honesty, up until that point, I thought the Stormtroopers were going to win, because there was these Stormtroopers. They were Star Wars dancers, and they were incredible dancers, and they had the biggest fan base ever. Yeah, Boogie Storm, because obviously everyone's a fan of Star Wars, and they were incredible. And I was thinking, oh, they've probably won. But then they came third, so then it was just me and Wayne. And yeah, it was, a moment that I'll never forget. It didn't really, in honesty, it didn't really hit me in a big way until about 2 weeks after. That you kind of, and no doubt you had the same thing, that at the time everything's happening so fast and it's just amazing to be there, that you don't really reflect on how special that whole time was until a few weeks after down the line. And you really think that was such a special thing to be a part of, with all of those acts, all experiencing this amazing thrill of a few weeks or a few months of just an incredible experience all together. And you kind of build a really strange bond with those people because you're all experiencing a real high that you've all wanted and are all really lucky to have. You all experience that at the same time. And I do always remember feeling like I wish I could just now step back into that time of my life and just relive just those few weeks and just and maybe just relive it in a way where there's less pressure and you're not so worried about the TV aspect and just enjoy it more.
I completely agree. I think when I got the golden buzzer, I remember that sort of like it's like an out of body. It's really strange.
Yeah.
Because I watched it. I watched it later. I watched it, like on the one when they aired it, like sort of 2 months later. And when you're watching it there, you're kind of going, "Did that happen to me? Did that really happen to me?" Do you know what I mean? So it was like the weirdest thing. But yeah, so I oh, sorry, 1 second. Stay there 1 second. Sorry, one minute. Really.
No worries.
Oh my God.
While he's, it looks like he's grabbing something. Oh yeah, go
on. My wife has just ordered. We're on these diets after Christmas, but she's standing there with a pizza box, which is just really.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, you know
No, but
we'll wrap it up soon.
I just want to finish off on that question. So in that moment, I'll tell you why I asked the question. Right, I'll tell you why I asked the question. I remember when I got through to the final of Britain's Got Talent as X. Obviously, I didn't get through to the final as me. When I got through to the final as X, I remember people sort of like Tessa would say to me, "Who do you think is going to win Britain's Got Talent?" And I went, "Colin Thackeray." I said, "Colin Thackeray." And this is me having just done. I've done the prediction with me and Simon and stormed it through to the final. And I came home that night, and Tessa said to me, "Who do you think is going to win Britain's Got Talent?" I went, "Colin Thackeray is going to win Britain's Got Talent." So when I'm on stage in the final and it's me and Colin Thackeray, I knew 100%. You can see it on my face. I'm looking over at Colin Thackeray because I just know Colin's got it. Absolutely got it. And a lot of people, I get this sort of thing where people sort of go, "Oh no, that was your year. You should have won," and this, that, and the other. And I said this, so I did an interview on this morning. Me and Colin both went on there together. And I sort of think at that time, we were going through the whole Brexit thing and everything else. And the sort of country felt really sort of divided at the time. And I remember I just sort of said to Philip and Holly, my goodness, like I'm a real advocate for, I'm a fan of the Royals. I'm a patriotic British person. I'm mixed heritage, but my mum's English. So I'm a sort of patriotic Brit, so I am one for, the troops and NHS and all the things that you did in your Christmas performance. I thought was really powerful because it's just like, it's what makes Great Britain. It really is. And people like Colin and yourself and Fergus, are, testament to us. So for me, I was, and I mean this, genuinely absolutely fine coming second to someone like Colin Thackeray. But I was just interested to ask you that question because we've both been in that moment. But obviously you won and I came second, but I knew that I was coming second. And I just wondered if you thought you were going to win or you weren't sure, or whether or not you were thinking, "Oh no, just no way have I won Britain's Got Talent." And then it's like, boom, you've won kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just interested to know how that sort of, what was in your mind. And it's weird because you do sort of, it's a weird thing to kind of go back to, because as you say, it feels very out of body. When you go through those moments, it's, it is the weirdest thing. Like, yeah, it's there's a weird detachment from it. because like just having Ant and Dec coming up to me with like loads of gold confetti coming down, I sort of think the only way that I've got proof that that actually happened is not from here. I click on YouTube and go, no, that did happen. That really did happen. So it's an honor to have those experiences. But I completely agree with you. You do almost kind of go, can we just quickly do it again? And I'll really take it in this time.
Yeah.
In the moment.
I definitely think we're very lucky to have experienced that kind of
What?
powerful emotion in those moments. In those moments is it's something that it's difficult to believe really happened. But
we're part of a very, very unique club. I mean, it's a very exclusive club. Very few people will ever be in those positions, and massively lucky to have done it. I mean, what an honor! What an absolute honor!
I'm pleased that was a good question. I was terrified you was going to ask. Hit me with a terrifying question to end the.
No, I'm just curious because like we've both been in that position. It's just and it's a unique place to be. That moment of just waiting, just say it. The winner is just say it.
That pause that they put in is
yeah.
I just see.
I was going to say just so that people know. They've got the monitors, so Ant and Dec obviously are working off of auto cues. And I remember sort of when you're there, you kind of think to yourself, like when I was there in 2018, all it says on the auto cue, it doesn't say your name, it doesn't say, and the winner is Colin Thackeray, it just says announce winner is all it says. Right. So.
Well, before we go, I just want to make sure everyone's got your correct social media handles, because I did notice when I was trying to tag you in, there's a few different X accounts, and I want to make sure people are getting to the genuine X. So, so anyone watching, what are your social media channels?
So social media. So on Facebook, it's I am Spellman. So and Spellman is with actually on the screen you can see it. Is that would be you could the names on the screen there. So I should be tagged you hopefully in this. I can't actually see it here, but it should be a link to I am Spellman on there. Yeah, the screen that I'm looking at, the screen that I've got on my monitor is Marc, and then it's got Spellman. So it's 1 L 2 N's in Spellman. So I am Spellman, and then if you're on Facebook, that you've got I am Magician X, which is Magician X. If you're on Instagram, it's the same thing. I am Spellman and I am Magician X on Instagram. So same on Twitter. So I've kept it all the same, all on Twitter, whatever you prefer. But I put different content up on different things. Facebook and Instagram are similar, but do follow. And my YouTube channel, I've got barely any subscribers. So if you're at a loose end and you're on YouTube, just subscribe, and I promise you good content's coming.
What I'll do is I'm going to add this to my YouTube anyway, so I'll make sure all the links are on there as well. And the only other thing is we're keen to see your body pop in at some point on TikTok. But do you not have TikTok yet? Is that something you're
No, I'm on
TikTok.
So I think it's at Spellman Magician X on TikTok. At Spellman Magician X on TikTok.
Awesome. So if you want to check out the breakdancing, check him out on TikTok. I'll definitely be doing that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Honestly, this has been fascinating. It's really been interesting to listen to you. And like I said in the intro, I've admired you since I first got into magic, and you've always been a star since I've ever got into anything magic related. So I really appreciate having you on. Awesome. Thanks. So everyone else, thank you so much for joining us. There's a lot of people who I've noticed have watched us right from the beginning. They've plowed through this entire chat, which is lovely to see. Wow. And I don't know if you guys can see, but I can see there's hundreds of love hearts, hundreds of thumbs ups and laughing faces and smile faces. So we've got a lot of appreciation from the lovely people watching, which is what we always get. I haven't seen any sad faces, which is lovely. So awesome. So thank you so much. Let's finish with a bit of a jingle. Marc, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Keep safe and keep smiling to every single one of you. And I'll see you, anyone else who joins me on these, I'll see you next Friday. I've got no idea who will get on it. We won't be able to top tonight, that is for sure. But I'll see you all next Friday. So to everyone, and especially Marc, thank you very much. Have a great week. Cheers, guys. There we go.